Hello everybody, Maven here, and today we are showcasing off the new meta. In the recent patch 7.0.5.0, Bungie buffed rapid fire frame sniper rifles to a large degree. So first up, they reduced recoil by 50%. Now typically in Destiny 2 terms, when you talk about recoil, it means recoil direction. So which way the reticle sways as you shoot your weapon. But in these patch notes, I feel like they worded it wrong. What they really mean by recoil here is stability. Because you can notice a gigantic difference from before. And you can see it in the background gameplay in this video, especially when you're behind a rally barricade. The gun has like no kick at all. It is perfectly controllable and feels very good to use. And the next and biggest buff, and the reason why these are meta now, is because they increased their ammo reserves by 30%. So they can definitely compete among the best snipers in the game now. Before they were definitely a little lackluster, but now they can hold a ton of ammo. Unless I was using it in a Grandmaster, I found myself never really running out of ammo with this thing unless I tried to. And when you have an inventory size this big, you definitely want to take full advantage of that by utilizing a perk like triple tap or fourth time's a charm. There are definitely a few snipers that come to mind, just like the new Irokanji added this season, and that's a good one, but nothing comes close to the value of the Cloudstrike, especially with the catalyst added recently that gives it triple tap. And yes, the Irokanji does have fourth time's a charm, so it can technically have more total ammo than the Cloudstrike, while also being able to run a perk like Firing Line, and also being able to equip a perk like Boss Spec or Major Spec, depending on the situation, so you can get a lot of damage out of it. However, you gotta remember what Cloudstrike does. On every third crit, you summon down that lightning storm that does over 30,000 damage. I don't care about your Firing Line, I don't care about your Boss Spec. That lightning storm does more than those perks put together by a long shot. So the Cloudstrike is a DPS monster that you could have no trouble bringing into raids or even GM content. It is a top contender in the game now. And I personally like to pair this thing with the auto-loading rocket launcher. Like right now, I really like to use the Sleepless because if you're using Arc Surge, you can take advantage of an auto-loading Arc launcher, and then obviously the Cloudstrike is Arc. And I also wanted to mention that Bungie announced in a recent TWAB that snipers are going to get a 10% damage buff in PvE at the launch of Season 21. So the Cloudstrike is great as it is, but it's only going to get better. So let's get on to a little bit of damage testing against our good pal Carl here, and we're going to be comparing the Cloudstrike to the previous best sniper in Destiny 2, undisputedly, the Succession. This thing is a monster and it's still amazing. However, the damage does not quite line up with the Cloudstrike. So this thing is an aggressive frame. We got Reconstruction, Vorpal weapon with Major Spec, and yes, Carl is a Major. So here is what I would call a realistic situation. You're doing a nightfall, you're doing a raid or whatever, you see a fat yellow bar, you can go ahead and suspend them and take them out with a sniper. We are doing 49,995 per shot with the Succession. And now here is the same situation but with the Cloudstrike, and it looks pretty similar. If not, the Succession might be a little bit more bursty. However, the Cloudstrike is a lot more controllable on that stability. Now, before we calculate damage, gotta say I'm running one reserve mod, Arc for the Cloudstrike and Kinetic for the Succession. It is likely that if you are using the Cloudstrike, you would run one Arc reserves, and that would also go well with your Arc Heavy. It's not as likely you would run reserves for your Succession since there are no Kinetic Heavies. Bungie, please change that. But we will be calculating it this way. So with the Succession, we have 21 total reserves, with each shot doing 49,995 damage, ending up in a total of 1,049,895. And now with Cloudstrike, and theoretically, if you hit every single triple tap proc, like it's not likely that happen unless you're damaging Oryx, you'd likely miss some shots, but anyways, with every triple tap proc, you have 52 total reserves, each shot doing 21,614 damage. And that is going to result in 1,123,928, which is already better than the Succession, but you also have to take into account that every third shot is summoning a lightning storm that does 35,520 damage, adding another 600k, ending up in a total of 1,727,768. That is massively ahead of the Succession. Now with that information out of the way, let's talk about a build I made for the Cloudstrike. Now, the Cloudstrike you can just use on anything you want. It doesn't matter what you use it on, where you use it, it'll be good anywhere. However, I think the way to best take advantage of it to its fullest is going to be on strand with suspend. Because when a fat target is suspended, they're just sitting there in midair, can't fight back, they're completely still. You can land all of your Cloudstrike hits fairly easily. Now, technically, you can do the same thing on stasis if you freeze targets. And I tried this with the Osmiomancy Infinite Stasis Turrets build on Warlock. And it was okay, but it was not nearly to the same degree of ease as suspend. I felt that strand was far superior and the best way to take advantage of Cloudstrike. Now, as you can see during the background gameplay, I ended up on strand Titan for a couple reasons, and this isn't because I'm a Titan main in PvE. So if the goal here is to suspend as much as possible, that cuts Warlock out of the equation. You got your Shackle Grenades, you got Weaver's Trance, but you know, in end game like GM content where you desperately need to suspend everything on the spot, you don't have time to proc Weaver's Trance and pray there's a tiny red bar around a champion, yeah, Warlock's not going to make the cut. And as for Hunter, Hunter's not bad because you get a second grenade charge, so you have 2 Shackle Grenades, and then also you have that aspect that allows you to do your air dive, slam down on targets and suspend them. But in a GM and the toughest content, that's not always going to be a super safe thing to go for out in the open. Especially sometimes those unstops can bug out, they'll punch the floor and you'll get one shot. But Titan, however, did make the cut for a couple reasons. Firstly, you have the aspect called Dringer's Lash, and that allows you to place down your barricades, send that ripple along the ground, and suspend targets from a distance. And being distant from targets is very important in endgame content. And secondly, with the Abeyant Leap exotic boots, every time you suspend a target, be it your Shackle Grenade or with Drenger's Lash, you gain Woven Mail. And this also sends additional trackers when you place down your Drenger's Lash, making it a lot easier to suspend multiple targets and to even hit your target in the first place. Now, why is Woven Mail important? Well, because it gives you a very massive damage reduction. I believe it is around 60%. I saw a video on this before where they talked about it. So 60% from Woven Mail, 30% damage reduction by having 100 resilience, and then 15% from a resist mod in your chest. They all multiply together to result in an 82% damage resistance, so you are an absolute tank. You tank so much damage, even in GM content, you can get around pretty safely. And with this build, since you're suspending things constantly, and with the Abeyant Leap boots, you're gonna have Woven Mail all the time. And that is very, very nice to be that tanky. You know, when you're Strand Hunter, you're very squishy. I would much rather be a Strand Titan in this situation. And Strand Titan can get Woven Mail and suspend targets in more ways because there is an artifact mod this season called Untangler. So destroying a tangle is gonna create something like a War Mind Cell effect where you suspend targets around the area and you increase that with Threaded Blast, increase the radius. That is very good to have as well. And every time you destroy a tangle, you're getting Woven Mail because of Into the Fray. Now, to create tangles, there are a couple different ways for Strand Titan to do that. Either by just killing a suspended target, they will unravel into a tangle, or your melee ability, Frenzied Blade, severs targets. So when you kill a severed target, they create a tangle. Now, out of all 3 classes' Strand melee abilities, the easiest one to actually pick up the kill with is the Titan one. It does the most damage, so it's especially good to use in endgame content. You can just get a target weak with your primary, go in and Frenzy Blade them to finish them off. You create that tangle, shoot it, you blow up everything in the area, suspend them, and you get Woven Mail. You're extra tanky. And that's another good thing to do because of Thread of Propagation. So when you pick up that Frenzy Blade kill, you're gonna grant unraveling rounds to your Strand weapons, and that is excellent for ad clear because it just shoots those little unraveling tanglers all around the room and hits everything, and that is going to be excellent for your Thread of Generation because dealing damage generates grenade energy, and it's not by the amount of damage you deal, it's about the amount of pings of damage. So with those little unravelers shooting everywhere, that's going to generate a lot of nade energy, giving you a lot of Shackle Grenades. And all of this suspending we're doing is feeding into Thread of Mind. Defeating suspended targets grants barricade energy. We're using the quick charging rally barricade, by the way, but we're just constantly getting barricade energy for all of the suspending we're doing. And then all of these barricades are also proccing bomber on our class item. So the barricades give us nade energy, the nades suspend and then give us barricade energy. They feed into each other. And then on top of that, on our gloves here, we got bolstering detonations. Every time we shackle grenade something, we're getting more barricade energy. So So it just goes back and forth and back and forth. And this is how Strand Titan can suspend things infinitely and never run out of charges. And then to round it all out, we got Thread of Continuity, so our suspend effects last longer. This is very important if you're doing tougher content, so you can keep a champion suspended for a long duration. And now let's go over our mod setup. We got Strand Siphon because we are using a Strand primary, and then we have Special Ammo Finder and Heavy Ammo Finder. Now, normally Finder bricks are terrible and give you like no ammo at all, but when you pair that with a Scavenger, it actually works now with the release of Lightfall. That's amazing, so it's actually worth running. Like I said before, we got Arc Reserves, Bolstering Detonation so that, you know, our Shackle Grenades generate Barricade energy, but then with Impact Induction, our Frenzied Blade hits will also generate Grenade energy. And then also gives us Orbs of Power because of Heavy-Handed. These orbs here matter because of Absolution to regenerate all our abilities, and also Recuperation so we get some health back as well. You can use whatever resists you want for the situation. I have on Bomber for my Nade energy, Utility Kickstart so I get some Barricade energy back. And then I have Reaper because of the amount of barricades we are putting down to suspend things. We're going to make a bunch of Orbs of Power. Now for my weapon setup here, you can use any Strand primary of your choice. There is the Rufus's Fury Adept. I would recommend this one over anything else, but with Demolitionist and Paracausal Affinity, I do not have that role yet. I'm still looking for it. So there's that. There's a Synchronic Roulette. There is the Immortal, there's the Michael's Reverence. You can use whatever you want to use really, but I would recommend a Strand primary. Cloudstrike obviously, and then an auto-loading arc rocket launcher is great because we are trying to take advantage of those arc reserves and arc scavengers, so using an arc heavy is awesome. There is the hothead, but I would greatly prefer an auto-loading rocket launcher. So the Sleepless can get that, but if you want to use a hothead, I wouldn't blame you. That one is excellent as well. But I also wouldn't argue with you if you used a Wendigo. And if you're doing lower level content and want to skate around, you can also use the Half-Truth Sword. So on to the wrap up here. I really wish that I could have gotten a clip from Oryx for you guys. That would have been really epic to have in the video, but I could not find an LFG group that was on the Oryx CP, and I didn't want to start a fresh run with a bunch of blueberries late at night. You know, I was running low on time, and I hope you guys understand. But I would have no doubt in my mind that the Cloudstrike can now compete with the heavy linear fusion rifles, especially when you pair it with an auto-loading rocket launcher. It can definitely hold its own weight. And seeing as how people now realize how broken Strand is for endgame content like Grandmasters, and likely you yourself will use Strand suspend builds for Grandmasters in the future, the Cloudstrike is going to be a top pick. Trust me, this is something you want to try out for sure. And if you want to try out this specific build, as always, I'll leave a dim link to the loadout down below in the description and in the pinned comment if you'd like to give it a try. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment, because interacting with the video in different types of ways like that really helps it out and helps the algorithm. And if you happen to have any friends who might be interested, it'd be greatly appreciated if you share this video with them. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. Would love to have you here. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.